Morning, family. I trust you're good wherever you are and you're experiencing the Lord's favor in your life. Welcome to the Waterbrooks channel. Pastor Tsepo here. On behalf of my wife and the team that I work with, I'd like to thank you for getting in touch with us. So there's two ways in which you can stay connected with us. One, do not forget to click the subscribe button and then click the notification so that every time when we post, you are the very first person to be notified. And thank you once again for getting in touch with us on all the social media platforms that we are on. I thank you, family. As we are about to listen to today's message, I'd like to encourage you to open your spiritual ears. Let this be a message that transforms. As we continue our biblical discourse, family, we're going to look at Genesis chapter 14 this morning. This is the account where Abraham rescues Lot. So what had happened was Kedorlaomer was the reigning king. He was the king of kings. He was bigger than all of them during that time. Yeah. So now, for 12 years, they all had respected his rulership. So it so happened that after 12 years, the other kings, they decided to disobey him and they stopped paying their homage. So now, Kedorlaomer took those that were still allied to him, he took them to go purge those other kings that were now behaving in an unruly manner. It so happened that they went to Sodom and Gomorrah. This is where Lot, the nephew of Abram, stayed near Sodom and Gomorrah. He was also captured as part of the spoils when the king of Sodom and Gomorrah was defeated. So now, there was somebody who managed to escape, and they went to report to Abram to let him know that, your nephew Lot has been captured. So now, that's where we start our reading for this morning, family. Genesis 14 verse 14, it reads as follows. When Abram heard that his relative had been taken captive, he called out 318 trained men born in his household and went in pursuit as far as Dan. So as I was looking at that, I started thinking, Kedorlaomer had his own army. Let's assume 500 to 5,000 men that he went to war with. And he had other kings that he was allied with that also took their armies. I think this is why he was considered to be the big dog, the big king, because he had more men than all of them. That's why he was able to go to war and defeat all of them. So now, just imagine with me, Abram took only 380 men to go fight these kings. So as I was looking at that, I was like, family, it does not matter how big or how many they are in the enemy's camp. As long as the Lord is on your side, we will surely conquer and defeat. So no matter what challenge or difficulty you're faced up with, it may seem big, but if God is on your side, rest assured, family, we are bound to win. So while I was still looking at that, it says here, he took trained men. Family, I'd like to encourage you, or we encourage each other, that we need to be trained beyond the fivefold ministry. Because there is warfare happening out there, family. Let's take, for example, the space of media. How many of us have been trained in the executive space when it comes to media? That Hollywood has got its own agenda. That we know. They've got their own agenda that they are pushing. So how many of us have been trained to be appointed by, we produce our own movies so that we do not have to succumb to the standard or to, the filth that we watch. Or to be at the point where you are trained to be a CEO and you will be the one who shuts down some of these unnecessary characters or unnecessary movies. So that's the training that I'm looking at. So when you look at finance, I think the last financial crash, 2008, Bernie Madoff, this is when now they were playing with money, or the housing market, the Bernie Madoff, it led to the housing market crashing. How many of us are trained at that level where we are able to understand the financial sector? I think the only time we hear about money in church is when it's contributions, offerings, and tithes. But it's a vast discipline that we need to be trained in. As it says, he took men who were trained in his house. So now we need to get to a point whereby we train one another in these areas. So it does not have to end there at finances, the politics of the country, the economics of the country. What does it take to run an entire nation? We can no longer take the seat back and allow people who are not filled with the Holy Ghost to be ruling us. This is why we are faced up with so much scandals. So now, as I was looking at that, so as we continue with that passage, after Abraham took his men and they were able to defeat, they were able to defeat the other 5 kings. So after defeating them, now they took Lot and all the spoils. So now we are introduced to an interesting character, Melchizedek, man without genealogy, no father, no mother. So now this is the part where now it gets interesting. Abraham took 10%, which is 10% of all the spoils, and he tithed to Melchizedek. Now, as I was looking at that, the principle of tithe was introduced here. Maybe not here, but written, it started here. But now, it was not yet law. So now, Abraham did not do it out of law, he did it out of a principle. That when you come from more, 10% goes to a higher king, in this case, Melchizedek. So there's quite a few factors when it comes to Melchizedek. Some preachers have proposed that this was Christ pre-incarnate, where Christ in the Old Testament, in the book of Hebrews, they do go through that. So I'm still doing my research on that. We will talk about Melchizedek maybe in the next video. But as I was looking at this chapter 14, I started thinking even deeper, and this is what the Lord revealed to me. Lot will represent us, family, which is Christians, per se, or the human race. And then Cardioloma will represent the thief that we spoke about in the previous video, Satan. And then Abram will represent Jesus. So these are types and shadows. What do I mean? So now, we were captives of sin. Yeah, Cardioloma would be Satan. So we were captives, we were under bondage. So Abraham, Jesus came, in the form of Jesus. He came and rescued us. So now that we know that we have been rescued, what are we going to do with our newly found freedom? Are we going to continue living as though we are still slaves to sin? Or we don't know that we have been rescued from the clutches of hell? So yeah, as I was looking at Genesis chapter 14, this is what resonated with me, or what the Lord had laid in my heart to share with your family. I trust and I believe that the message will transform you. Stay blessed.